everybody, as you know, I like to speak the plain and obvious truth. I almost always come to a different conclusion than the majority of investors, and I have always been skeptical of cryptocurrencies. And I recently found an amazing article explaining why the meteoric rise of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in 2017 occurred, and simply put it somewhat had to do with the wealthy people in China using cryptocurrencies as a means of transferring their wealth outside of China due to increasing hostility by Xi Jinping, the leader of the CCP. But in case you don't believe me just yet, let's go through the details. The source for what I will be reading comes from Kumar Thanguru, the founder of Engineer SF, and he can be followed on Twitter at Datarate. So without further ado, let's jump into his article. Okay, so to get started, he starts out a long form on cryptocurrency. Here we go. It took me a few years to wrap my head around this, and I'm always learning more. If anyone tries to explain cryptocurrency to you without talking explicitly about money laundering or capital controls, it might cause you to miss out on the purpose of cryptocurrencies and why 2017 had a meteoric rise in value of them. This has to start with an explanation of the world's global systems. Planet Earth, 195 countries, 180 currencies. 8% of cash is paper, the rest is not. You can visualize the macro financial world as 32,220 unidirectional money pipes between countries. Roughly speaking, there's rules assigned to each pipe that regulate frequency, magnitude, coordinates, and speed. Governments don't want you to be able to seamlessly transfer and convert money between countries and convert between them because of a long litany of money laundering laws. European banking is speedy because their governments are perfectly fine with money laundering for terrorists, cartels, and more, not because they are more sophisticated. Of the almost 60,000 reports of money laundering in Germany in 2017, only 474 cases resulted in judgments, sentences, and indictments. There's all sorts of acronyms for this and organizations centered around it. FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, AML, Anti-Money Laundering, FATF, Financial Action Task Force. Complying with money laundering laws for financial institutions can be so complicated that many of them pay $150,000 per year for an entire almanac on the subject, or so I've been told. So this is pretty insane. It's called thebankersalmanac.com, which has 625,000 documents, 22,000 banking institutions worldwide represented in it. So he goes on, if you're an American and you have money in a foreign bank account, they'll report it to the IRS. The vice versa does not apply. Fungible assets. Now that you're somewhat familiar with U.S. laws and how the banking system works, let's talk about fungible assets and their evolution. Now let's evaluate the last 30 years of hyped fungible assets. These are goods that are being traded for speculative values, globally liquid, easily able to overcome capital controls with ease. And these are past assets that hyped hard: Pokemon trading card game, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, but these all had downfalls with counterfeiting and, other downsides. Persian rugs, Second Life, and then art, of course, luxury goods, such as watches, the list can go on. And then all of a sudden cryptocurrency comes along. Zero physical, global, fungible, and verifiable, converts to fiat currencies. Bitcoin even has ATM machines, and they're over-the-counter brokers, both shadow and compliant, which means you can convert between currencies outside of an exchange. So then the question is, what caused Bitcoin to become so valuable in October of 2017? And the short answer is Xi Jinping gave a 205-minute address to the Chinese Congress that outlined his future vision of increased censorship, autocracy, and military might. The Chinese wealthy wanted to get their money out, but they could only take out 100,000 US dollars per year. So what did they add to the arsenal of money laundering tools? Cryptocurrencies. Lots of dumb retail investors like you and me are fine taking the profits. But for many of Chinese wealthy, if they wanted to convert 100 million US dollars, they didn't mind taking a haircut of their wealth to get it to cold hard US dollars. Also, once they get it to the freedom-bearing USA, it's very easy to just pay off the IRS and keep the money and wealth here. Bitcoin and the 2,000 plus cryptocurrencies were a giant money laundering substrate. The catalyst was Xi Jinping. Bitcoin leads the way because it has the most anti-money laundering, XYC, and money service business licensures. There are no mainstream altcoin over-the-counter desks where you can get your Dogecoin converted to US dollars. The thing that caused the market to be toppled from where it was the implementation of anti-money laundering and identification enforcement laws on cryptocurrency exchanges. Shapeshift.io, for example, lost around 95% of its trading volume the moment KYC and AML were implemented. Anytime cryptocurrency arises, the only questions I ask myself are about who's trying to move money and from where. I will always hodl a bit of it because I believe capital flight is a normal part of human behavior, and I'd like to capture the upside. So this is just a very interesting article, and while the majority of people who are investing in Bitcoin and Dogecoin or whatever they're investing in or speculating in would be a more I think apt word to use, while they're not money launderers, most of them, this does add some explanation as to why cryptocurrencies are essentially the perfect tool for transferring wealth outside of regulatory bodies. Essentially, you could evade all of these different laws around the globe. And yeah, I think it's interesting that he asks himself, whenever cryptocurrencies are on the rise, who is transferring wealth in large mass out of what country. And this could explain kind of the current rise in Bitcoin that it's had over the last 6+ months. It could be China again, it could be India, it could even be the United States, with the very wealthy here wanting to transfer wealth out of the United States to avoid potentially increased taxes that are coming. So, it just does shed more light on the whole cryptocurrency market. Again, I'm very skeptical of it myself. I can't provide any financial advice, but I would just caution those who are planning on holding cryptocurrencies for the long term, just around it, just based on all of what you've just heard here, and what has likely at least contributed to the rapid momentum that cryptocurrencies have gained at different times. The whole system is just very fragile. There's a lot of unknowns there. So I would just caution anybody who's thinking of holding these long term. Again, speculating is a whole different story. You could be trading Bitcoin, you could be trading Dogecoin or Ethereum or whatever, and that's totally fine in my opinion. I don't do that either, but if you can do that really successfully, then all the more power to you. But in just my opinion, holding it long term is probably not a very sound idea. But that being said, there's just some personal reasons I steer clear of cryptocurrencies, and there's just so many variables that I have no control over. And sure, they have performed amazingly over the last decade, and they probably will, they may continue to do so, but with any sort of massive rally, when it comes to an end, it will reverse very quickly. So if you liked this video, just consider hitting the thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button and let me know why down in the comments, and I hope to see you again.